there's a lot of different aspects to marketing. And, it can get overwhelming, right? So, think about the ideas. Think about the fact that our website is a storefront. And within the website alone, you have copywriting, you have SEO, you have design, you have branding, you have functionality. There's just that in itself. Yeah. And you have social, and you have YouTube and TikTok and Pinterest and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram, man. It's overwhelming, right? And it's really hard to do everything, right? And there's a lot of success and a lot to be said, even if you just do a few of those things, because you can still attract business that way just by being great at Instagram and copywriting. Maybe that's your thing, and it's great. You can really dive into so much of this. Do you have a favorite where you love that sandbox?
I do love marketing. Here's what I figured out, like, in the past few months. I've loved running this business, and I love my team and our clients. I realized that as much as I love marketing, I'm the freaking bottleneck in this business, because I have so many ideas and so many things, and I'm a typical entrepreneur where it's just like the ideas overflow, and I finish about like 2% of all of the things that I start. And yeah, I know it's a disease, and I do not recommend it. But what I just got used to, over the years, as I was handing off production and not shooting, not editing to a team, and then eventually not doing the day-to-day operations, the sales and marketing always fell. I just assumed, I'm like, okay, well, but I can do this stuff because I've been doing that since day one. So very similar to anybody who says like, well, I've been the main filmmaker since day one, so I'll just keep doing that, and maybe I'll hire assistants or other, people that can lead that or whatever, but I've still got to be a part because I've been a part from the beginning. So I just kind of didn't realize that I was treating sales and marketing that same way, that, the exact opposite way of what I had done in all the other aspects of the business, where I said, okay, let's come up with sales and processes and procedures so that I can delegate and hand these parts of the business off. Sales and marketing, I'm very passionate about what I do and what I believe the power of video and storytelling and how that can help a business in sales and marketing and hiring and onboarding and all of those things. But I'm not the best at it. I'm definitely not the best at marketing. But, ask me to come up with a bunch of marketing ideas, I'll just endless ideas. And I think they're all great. So we hired a marketing agency to help us because I was like, I need to get out of this. And, I would love to have a salesperson that was in charge of sales and a marketing team that just did the things. And so we're kind of dipping our toe in what does it look like for Ryan to not be doing the marketing. I love. So you're the idea guy, and maybe to an extent some execution, but you're like, I got a pile of great ideas, maybe good, maybe bad. You guys know how to execute this stuff. What do you think? How do you, right? Is it sort of like that? And now they're like, this is great, and we can create something around this and create an entire campaign around this and do this. And they're actually executing, or that's the approach, right? Yeah. That's the approach. That's amazing, man. It's great that you identified that as a business owner. It took a long time. How many years, right? How many years did it take to figure it out? All of them. And then all of a sudden, one of them, you're like, holy crap, that's all I needed to do. Yeah. Like, it's the same thing. It's like handing over the DVDs. Well, and we'll see, we're in the first 6 weeks of this relationship. I'm hopeful that it will work, but at the same time, I'm kind of I'm just open to exploring what does this need to look like. But it starts with, go ugly early. This is my, you don't learn until you launch moment, where I'm like, I just got to do it. I got to pay somebody else to do it and lead our team, take some stuff, do something with it. And we'll see if, we can create any momentum. And then, hopefully we were able to, at the same time, the other thing that I'm spending time on working is trying to package and productize our service so that it is more turnkey, and like every project isn't this customized thing that needs like high level creative and high level direction, but it's just like, hey, we know, these 10 videos you should have in your sales flow, and here's the way to do them, so they don't require super high level thinking. That's my dream, is to come up with that, because I feel like in the past, when we were filming weddings and we had 3 packages, we had bronze, silver, and gold. Those are the 3 packages, and here's all the things that were in them. So then it wasn't even about like, it wasn't ever about trying to convince somebody to hire us, but it was really easy to say like, well, just pick which package like fits in your budget and with what you guys want. That's easy for people to sell. I was able to teach multiple people on my team to do that. But when it came to like customize from scratch, when we started doing corporate films, it was like, man, every business, they say they need something a little bit different than the last business, and the brain power to like dissect that and to put together customized budgets and proposals, that just takes a lot of time and energy, which I can do with my eyes closed, but it still requires me.
You still want to be the mad scientist. You want to be the Steve Jobs, and you want someone else, because you were doing that and you were doing the execution. Now let me experiment. Let me just be Steve Jobs, and let me hand over the execution to a company that can figure out how to take my ideas, my bucket of ideas, and actually implement the ones that they think will work. Right. So going back to E-Myth, it seems to be the theme, where Michael Gerber breaks down the 3 types of people. You have the, I don't remember if they coined the phrase right, but the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician, right? Yep. So, for those who don't know what that means, the entrepreneur is the mad scientist, the person with the ideas, the innovator, the Steve Jobs. The manager is the person that is taking those ideas and those orders and delegating them to the workers or to the staff. And the technicians are the ones doing it, the ones that are, making the editing and filming and all those kind of things. In this case, I even look at that like, when you're making a movie, the production studio, is sort of the entrepreneur, because they have the idea, they bought the script. The director is the manager, and Tom Cruise is the technician,
right?
Even though he's probably making more money than everyone else, right? it has nothing to do with like one's higher than the other in some sort of, ranking order. It's just, I'm built to do this, I'm built to do this, and I'm built to do this. And there's somebody who loves to do each one of those things. So going back to what you said, I see a lot of similarities between us. One of my favorite books of all times, I'm an audiobook guy, is a book called Traction from Gino Wickman. And if you haven't, I don't know if you've read it or came across it or anything like that, but you'd fall in love if you have it. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yes. So
all right. You love Traction. I can see the smile.
Integrated. Well,
so the integrator. We need the integrator. There it is.
Yeah. Where is the integrator? Let me just. Can I just brag for 1 second,
please?
I've read a bunch of books, listened to hundreds of audiobooks. So I have a few heroes, like few business heroes, and Gino is one of those heroes.
I called him Dino. Gino.
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, that's okay. I'm only a little bit offended. Just kidding. My assistant back in March said, Ryan, some guy named Gino wants to come to the studio and film a master class. And I was like, wait, Gino. She's like,
how
Gino
many
Wickman.
Ginos are there?
And I was like, Gino Wickman. And I'm like, is this a joke? And she's like, no, it says right here, wants to do. And long story short, Gino spent 2 days at our studio. I got a picture with him. I got to hug him. We got to cry together. Dude, it was like just one of the coolest moments for me in my entire business. Wow. So yes, I do know Traction. And EOS actually has played a significant role in me experiencing more freedom in life and in business, and really getting our stuff together. About 6 years ago is when we started practicing the things that he teaches inside of Traction. We have we have a fractional integrator. Yes, we do have a fractional integrator on our team, but we do have an implementer that helps us each quarter to take us through all the EOS stuff. So yes, I am very familiar.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my gosh. And I can't tell you, I don't run into people ever that know this, that know Traction.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Where are they living?
I've talked to a lot of people because it's my favorite book.
Oh, dude, it's like,
you know what
amazing.
it is? I'll say one thing about this book, and I keep saying book. I'm an audio book guy. So when I say I read a book, I meant I listened to a book.
Exactly. That's what I mean too.
I mean, scroll down, there's like 50 solid titles and I've done them all. Half of them more than once listened to, and then other ones that I've randomly found on YouTube and so on and so on. What I find in 90% of audiobooks is that it's filled with fluff and there's very little substance. And there might be some great substance in there, but it's a waste to have the book be 5 hours long when I really need to listen to it for 20 minutes. And what I mean by that is they'll take 15 minutes to tell a story. I'll call it out. E-Myth, great ideas, but he could have squeezed that thing. He didn't need to tell me about, he could have turned the pie story into a much shorter story. It doesn't really need to be that long. But, certain stories, you need to be set up. I love the one where, you find yourself at your own funeral. And I get that one. And I love how we said, but in general, all these audiobooks, they take way too long to tell a story. Dude, you could have told me that in one sentence. You wasted 15, 20 minutes of my life. So Gino, sorry, Gino, you'll always be Dino to me. Gino. I'm too old to change. It's too late. So Gino's great because everything in that book, every sentence is value. So think of a solid audio book and it's filled with gold after gold. Oh my God. Anyway, to go back, I saw a Facebook ad and it was an app called 90.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of, because I was doing all this on Google Docs and spreadsheets. Yeah. And I'm like, I wish they had like an app or something, because this is kind of, no mention of it. It's hard to come by. And all of a sudden he says, there's an app called, there's an app called 90.io, and it's literally the EOS system as an app. And it's the best monthly payment I make. It's awesome. And it's hard to keep because it's overwhelming, right? You're running an entire business out of it. But what an amazing tool. If anybody is hearing these ideas and aligning with what we're talking about here, what is your biggest takeaway from Traction?
Number one, really big picture, just the rhythms, like the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, decade rhythms to do. It was like a blueprint, like having a roadmap for how, like when I go to work today, here's what I need to be doing today. That's going to support our 90-day or our rocks, our 90-day goals, which support our yearly goals, which support our 3-year picture and the 10-year, or is it 3-year, whatever, 3-year and our 10-year. Like that has been game changing. The other thing that has been totally game changing with practicing EOS has been the IDS, right? Issue, discuss, and solve. There have been so many. I just remember sitting in my first office. I had 5 employees, and we're all in this kind of like small-ish type office. And I would have an idea, marketing idea, sales idea, something like that. And I would spin my chair around, and I'd just be like, "Hey, what do you guys think about ... And like everybody would stop what they were doing. And maybe I was only talking to one person, but they just kind of felt like, does he want us to listen and give feedback? And then we get back to work. And our days and our weeks would be interrupted constantly by me. And what I doing this IDS thing has done is I've got an app that when I think of anything, like, oh, so-and-so keeps coming in late, like we need to talk about that, I just add it to this thing, it goes to my list, and then somebody adds it to our 90 app so that in our weekly meeting with our leadership team, we discuss, we prioritize the IDS items. So things might be like Ryan said that we need to get new paper. Okay, that's not super important. So we're going to talk about that last if we can get to it this week. But basically with the IDS, you look at, the number one thing that you need to discuss, you discuss it as a team, and then you solve it. in that meeting. So it's not just like, yeah, we should, do this. And maybe solving it is like, you do need to have a team meeting and get everybody on the same page about this one thing. But it might be like, hey, we haven't gotten paid from this particular client and nobody's telling me anything. Like, let's get on the phone with them right now. Like, this is an issue. This is a huge check that we're waiting on. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's do it right here, right now. So that has enabled us to do so much more in our business and be so much more efficient because we're doing it there together. I'm not interrupting the team. When there's an issue that comes up throughout the day, we might say to each other, hey, let's add that to the IDS and talk about that, next Monday because it's not urgent. That has been totally game-changing for us as well.
I love hearing this. I love hearing these stories. And, this was pre-pandemic, and a little bit of a different shuffle of people that were working with me. We used to have weeklies, and I remember one thing he said. He said, you got to pick, and I customized. I took his ideas and I customized certain things, but
sure. Well, you customize his name too. You call him Dino.
So, but 95% of it is definitely his system, right? So actually going back, I customized the concept, the sales and marketing, the operations and admin, or I think he had operations and something. That's him. That's where I got that idea from, but it was finance, I think, and analytics or something like that. And finance and admin or something. And I switched it out. So to me, finance and analytics, I look at it as input, do the work, output. So I took his concept and literally tweaked 5% of it from me. And that's what it made sense. Like, here's your input. Here's what you make with the input. Here's your output. What are you going to do with the output? You're going to pay people out. What's your profits left? Circle back. What are you going to do with the money? You're going to invest it here. You're going to put it back in the company. You're going to take it as profits, whatever it is. But anyway, going back, the biggest thing I took away from Traction was the part of that whole, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, the rocks. I think the rock is like the biggest thing in my mind right now, always. And what's cool about the rock, which Gino bases it on a 90-day goal. The coolest thing about a rock is that if we really think at our businesses and we're like, there's so much stuff I deal with every day and I got to do all this stuff and I have goals and I have, day-to-day problems and, wins and losses and all this stuff. I'm trying to run this business. What I learned was a rock, you can look at what you want to accomplish over the course of a year, keep it simple, and then break it down. It's going to be made up of 100 or 300 or 500 tasks throughout the year or whatever, however many tasks. That's overwhelming. We can't handle that. But what's my one or two goals for the year? Okay, great. Reverse engineer that. And now all I need to do is take that 1 year and say, well, what 4 things need to happen, for starters, to build that, to make that happen. So I have a rock for each of those quarters. And it doesn't mean you can't have more than one rock, but rocks, like, you got 90 days to pull this off and make sure it's real. Don't mess it up. You can miss the goal. It happens. But if you're missing them all the time, you're doing something wrong. You got to change it. You got to make yourself real rocks that you actually have wins on. So that idea of overwhelming, now I realize a rock, if I have 500 things to pull off this year, a rock might hold 30 things and this rock might hold 100 things. So now it's so much easier to say this rock. So I'll give you a real life example. Our last monthly meeting, the rock, we kind of rearranged and reassessed our rocks. Our rock is, we have an SEO rock. We have a website, even though SEO is part of it, website rock, because we have a lot of things that we want, a lot of issues within our website that we want to tweak, improvements and things like that. And then a social rock. And the social rock was built on, okay, we're going to do these 6 categories of content, right? And one of those categories is exactly what we're doing right now. So this thing led from Gino. I did that one on purpose. Gino, thank you. So no, oh man, it's so nice to have a conversation with somebody who has read that book or, who knows his philosophies, because it's such a fun thing to talk about. What was this masterclass? Was this about his thing, or was this like something new I don't know about?
Yeah, so he wrote a book called The EOS Life. You're familiar with that?
I don't know that. No.
Yeah, so it's a newer book, and at the end of that book, there's a section. It's kind of like a mini book inside of the book called the 10 Disciplines. And these are just disciplines that he's applied in his life and that have worked well for him. And so him, along with his good friend Rob Dubay, who is mentioned in Traction, Gino's from the Metro Detroit area, and so is Rob. And so they met each other a long time ago and have been friends. And so they partnered on this masterclass where they go through the 10 disciplines and teach those and offer it as a curriculum. So it was like, sitting there, I was familiar with the 10 disciplines, but to just listen to his stories and perspective and the way that he executes them. And I was just like, I felt like I was in heaven. It was so cool.
He must have been so happy to find your company after realizing that you were a fan.
Yeah. So
you guys must have talked about that, right?
Well, my friend Jason, who is an EOS implementer, used to work at an agency, and Gino was their implementer. So Jason got to see Gino in his element, and eventually Jason was just like, I want to do what that guy's doing. This looks awesome. I would love to do EOS. And so Jason got into the program and has spent a lot of time with Gino. So when my assistant said, hey, this guy Dino, just kidding, when they said, when she said Gino, wants to film at the studio, I called my buddy Jason, and I was just like, dude, like, guess what? And he's like, what? And I told him the story, and he's like, oh, I'm going to see him at, this conference. I'll obviously put in a good word for you. And so that helped. And I've gotten to hear from Jason a couple of different times where Gino had told him, like, dude, like, film your buddy Ryan's great. Like, their team is awesome. And just all this stuff just like made my heart want to explode. Pretty cool.
Wow. That's pretty cool, man. That's wonderful. All right. So anybody who's listening, Traction.
Yeah. So good.
And I know, so another one too is Rocket Fuel.
Yep.
So and then Rocket Fuel, I love. There's another book of his, and that was like really focused on the visionary and the integrator, that big part of that, where again, that's probably if somebody were to come to me, we get these emails all the time and we get pitched all the time. And it's always like, what problem keeps you up at night? I got to do something with this mic. Yeah. We're going to tweak this eventually. I'm going to
stop punching it, man. Be nicer.
Every podcast, something's going to change, and it's going to get better and better.
Maybe the host.
Right now.
Just kidding.
Yeah, hey. The host is going to eventually. Yeah, because I got to get somebody else to do this so I can do that other thing.
I crack myself up.
So basically, oh shoot, I lost my train
Rocket
of thought
Fuel.
Here. Rocket Fuel.
Visionary.
Yeah. So, somebody pitches you and says, hey, do you have that, what problem keeps you up at night? And, do you encounter these problems? Can you relate? Why don't you use our services? Things like, so if somebody picked up the phone, here's a call to action for anybody who's got this down. If somebody picked up the phone and solicited me, and then they said to me, Adam, if you're a guy who's got a lot of ideas, you're the entrepreneur, and it's so overwhelming and you can't execute them, but if they could get executed, you'd have so much more success. And I can find the guy who can actually take all those crazy ideas of yours and turn them into things as long as they have legs. Would you want to hear more? I would say, let's book a meeting today. Yeah. I'm available all day. I'll cancel everything. Let's talk. Yeah. Right. So that is probably my number one want and pain point growing a business. And again, it derives from, Traction and Rocket Fuel and that whole concept. Really, really cool.
So good,
ideas
man.
In there.
Yeah.
Let me just fire away a couple of quick questions here and just see if, just for listeners to see if they can catch a couple of more gold nuggets here. I look at sales and marketing. They get intertwined in a lot of ways. Yeah. How would you define, or how do you define yourself for your own company, the difference between sales and marketing at a high level?
High level marketing, it's all of the things that get people to know us, like us, and trust us. So it's our website. It's me being in person at events. It's, just all of the things, our logo, it's campaigns, and sales would be trying to help people figure out trying to help people and trying to help us figure out if we can actually help, the people that we're chatting with.
So what would you say once somebody encounters the sales process, there is interest, whether it's a call, email, or whatever it is, and they can actually schedule a meeting. What advice could you give to someone that has helped you over the years? Like one bit of advice on the sales front, once you're actually in front of a prospect and you could potentially close the deal if it goes the right way.
Well, I love Don Miller. I call him Ronald Miller. He wrote
Dino?
He wrote Building a Story Brand and, Business Made Simple, Marketing Made Simple. He's got an awesome podcast. You know Donald, I'm sure.
Yeah. Building a Story Brand. I have that audiobook. Yeah.
So
that's the hero guide thing.
Yeah. In that mindset, that's kind of when we started Studio Sherpas, I didn't know what a Sherpa was. I felt very ignorant. I'm like, that sounds cool. Like, what's a Sherpa? It's like, oh, it's it's a guide who takes you up a mountain. I'm like, oh yeah. And then realizing, like, in the sales process, if I can picture myself as a guide to be helpful, when you can choose your guide, you want to spend time with somebody that you get, and somebody that gets you. And so not all guides are for everyone, right? Not all video companies are for everyone. Like, you've got a way of working. You've got a certain personality and way that you help clients, and it's very different from mine. And there's crossover and some similarities and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, we are separate guides. And if I can help position what we do in a way that really helps our client understand how we can help them, then that's like, I don't want to try to convince something. I don't want to try to convince somebody to hire us. I don't want to twist their arm or feel or be salesy or sleazy or anything like that. I just want to say, like, here it is. Like, we're not for everyone. We're a little more expensive than most companies. So, know that going in. But at the same time, if you tell me your budget's $50,000, and if we can figure out how to do it for 40 or 20, like, I'm going to tell you that. I'm really good at coming up with ideas on how to get you to spend the rest of that money somewhere else. But here's what it is. Like, this is how we help. This is how we help our clients win. And if you like this vibe, we've got a ton of content out there. We put ourselves out there so people can see, like, personality wise, are they a good fit? Case study, how have they helped other people? And, am I clear on how they can help me? I don't know. I just think being open, honest, authentic, knowing your process on, what do you do to help people, and being able to communicate that. And then just really letting people decide for themselves. Like, I've found that that's usually the best way, because not every client is a good fit for us. And then my other favorite advice is get a no as soon as possible. So
say that again.
Get a no as soon as possible. So if you can, the more you can put yourself out there, if you have FAQ videos you can put on your website so that people can understand your process, but also they're getting a taste of your personality. If you have your own brand story that kind of talks about your why, and any of that stuff could turn somebody off. They could say, like, ooh, I don't like this guy. Like, this guy seems a little bit goofy, kind of sarcastic. We don't, that's not what we're looking for. Perfect. Great. We're a great fit, not together. You're going to be well suited hiring somebody else. Don't hire us, because what you see is what you get. So the more in our marketing that we can be and show off exactly who we are, so that, it's like WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So there's no surprises. That's the best, because, when we get knee deep in a project and clients spend a lot of money and we're spending a lot of time in workshops and calls and production and all that stuff, only to realize that this client cannot stand our approach, our culture, our personality. Boy, I'd rather they find that out like way sooner.
That's great, man. And you just get the no I love that. Get the no as quick as possible. You're not wasting their time. They're not wasting your time. Moving on.
Exactly.
And you freed up that pipeline for people that would be interested.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Last question.
All right.
So we talked about a couple of different books. Favorite book and why?
I feel like I'm supposed to say the Bible, but can I say a different one too?
You can say whatever you want because, you know, I'm not a religious guy, but I love the proverb, when words are many, sin is not absent. I love that. You know,
that's good.
The more you talk, the more you get yourself in trouble.
Exactly.
I'm
so maybe we should
that.
end this. I'm just, yeah, exactly. I would say Traction changed my business. And there have been so many books that I've read where I've taken like one nugget and applied it. I would say one of the books that I buy the most and recommend the most is called The Go-Giver. Is this a book you've read?
No. Tell me about that.
It's so good. It's written by a guy named Bob Berg, who I've had on my podcast, and we've done some stuff together. I can't remember his co-author. I'm a dummy that I think it's John something. It is such a good read. It's written in fable form, you know, similar to the E-Myth. But the story is so cool, and really it's about adding value and serving, being helpful, being available. And when you do that, instead of the mindset that our culture has, it's like hustle, you know, grind, be a go-getter, you know, make it happen. There are, you know, philosophical things like that, why I disagree with that. And I think for a long time, I did feel like, you know, my success was due solely to the input, you know, and yes, I think we have to work hard and we have to be focused and we have to be clear on what it is that we want. So we definitely are very, very responsible. But at the end of the day, if we're not giving of ourselves for other people and to help other people succeed, if I can build my business and think like, man, I just don't think we can help this person. If I can think like, or there's somebody that I think would be a much better fit for them, another video company. If I can have the guts to be able to follow that intuition, people can sense that, people will appreciate that. And, the way the universe works, those deposits that I'm making, they'll come back to me. And they have, and they continue to do so. And I just think it's a universal law. So having a mindset of like, there's so much work in this world, there's so much opportunity, there is so much abundance. I would rather live in that mindset than a fearful, scarcity mindset where I feel like, I've just got to grab hold of everything that's in front of me. I've got to take it for mine and get out of my way because I'm going to make this happen, whatever it takes. And I still, there's still a part of me that's like, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm committed to supporting my family and trying to serve as many people as I can. So I'm going to figure it out. But really at the end of the day, I'm approaching, I wake up every morning and I'm reading or I'm writing in my journal and I'm saying a little prayer of like, God, like, let me just like bring the people that I need to talk to and like whatever opportunities, give me the wisdom and the strength and the focus to do what I need to do. And if that just means like today, I'm just like available for anybody else, like that's what I want to do. Sometimes I don't feel that, but if I can start with that mindset, super, super helpful. And I think that book is so good and just kind of reaffirming some of those things that I think have been inside of me for a long time. I couldn't really articulate them well. They do a great job of making it very applicable for our businesses.
That's awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for your time, man. You knocked it out of the park. I learned a ton and I can't wait to talk to you again. We got to do this again.
Oh, dude, Adam, thank you. It's super fun to connect like this. Appreciate this work. Really cool work. I know it's going to be helpful for a lot of people. So keep it up. And hey, let's hang out soon.